Okay, so when we are beginning the head, I'm going to be using cream, but white is also fine. So we're going to start with a magic ring. And again, we're going to do 6 single crochet into the magic ring. Okay, and pull it tight. Okay, and then we're going to do 6 increases to give us 12 in total. So first increase, second, third, fourth, fifth, and last one is 6. Okay, but now we are going to need to join our brown coloured yarn. And tie that off together. And don't cut off your white or your cream yarn because we are going to need that. When we've changed colour to our brown yarn, what we are going to do is we are going to do single crochet, increase, single crochet and increase. Just don't finish off that increase and we change colour back to our cream. Like that. And then with our cream yarn, we're going to do single crochet, increase, single crochet, increase. And again, single crochet, increase, single crochet, and then on our last increase, we're going to change to our brown yarn again. 1 and back to our brown. Okay, and then we're going to do 7 single crochet with our brown. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and on our last 7, change back to our cream, and then we're going to do 11 single crochet with our cream. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and on our last single crochet again change to brown. And then with our brown yarn, we're going to do 2 single crochet increase. So 1, 2, and then we're going to do increase. So 1, 2, and this 1, 2, and the same one. That doesn't look like it's in the same one, yes. And again, 1, 2, and an increase. And then just 2 regular single crochet. So 1. But remember on the last brown one, we're going to change to our cream. And then we're going to do an increase. And then we're going to do 1, 2, increase, increase, 1, 2, increase, 2 single crochet, 2 single crochet, and an increase in the last one, and again we're going to change back to brown. This is going to be all brown round, so you can cut off your white. Okay, and we're going to single crochet around, so don't forget to mark that last stitch. It's just single crochet all the way around. This is our muzzle that we are making just now, just a wee bit at the front. Okay, keep going with the single crochet. And the last one, single crochet. Right, and for our next round we're going to start off by doing 2 single crochet. Then we're going to do 6 increases. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And then we will do 16 single crochet the rest of it. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and last one is 16. And then the next round we're going to do 3 single crochet. 1, 2, 3, and instead of 6 increases this time we're going to do 6 single crochet increases. Okay, so 1 single crochet, then an increase. That's the first one. 1 single crochet, then an increase. 1 single crochet, then an increase. That's 3. So do that 3 more times. 1 increase, single crochet, increase. Can't get that in there. And then 1 and an increase. And then for the rest of the round you are going to do 15 single crochet. And the next 3 rounds are pretty easy. It's just going to be 3 rounds of single crochet. So see you back once you have done that. Okay, so hopefully after those 3 rounds you have something that looks like this. So the next round that we are going to be doing is we are going to be adding in the ears now. So you're going to start by doing 5 single crochet. And then grab your first ear. And you want to make sure that the right side is facing down, like this. And I'm going to single crochet 2 on this side of the tail and 2 on that side of the tail. So this will be my first one. So through the ear, through the face. That's my first single crochet. Then through the ear, through the face, that's my second. And then make sure my tails are going to be in the inside. Through the ear, that's my third one. And final one is going to be number 4, like that. Okay, so that hopefully once you pull it up you can see you have an ear there. Alright, and then in between the 2 ears you're going to do 6 single crochet. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and you're going to repeat the same thing but with the other ear. So again, make sure it's facing down the way, and I'm going to put it through this one here. This will be my first one. So through the ear, through the face. That's my first single crochet. Make sure my tails are on the inside. So through the ear, through the face. Second single crochet. Again, make sure your tails are sitting on the inside. Number 3, through the ear, through the face. And number 4, through the ear, through the face. Okay, so we should have 2 ears that should be evenly spaced apart, like that. Okay, and finish this round off by single crocheting until the end. Okay, so the next 2 rounds are just going to be single crochet all the way around. So I will see you back once you have done that. Right, so hopefully you have got to the same point as me. And now what we are going to do is we are going to be adding on our nose, eyes, and any other facial expressions that we want to add. Okay, so I'm going to be using my dark brown yarn and my sewing needle. Okay, so we are going to be doing our nose next. Now, nose can be a wee bit tricky. I'm going to embroider it, but it's completely up to you. You could do a safety nose if you wanted. You could do a completely different nose. It's completely up to you. So I'm going to be using dark brown yarn to do this. And I think I will start maybe here. Okay. And for every slot I go through, I'm going to put it through 3 times. So that's number 1. Number 2. And number 3. Okay. Then I'm going to go under. I'm going to go into a slot that's maybe a bit higher. And I'm going to go through it 3 times again. So 1, 2, and 3. And you can see we've got a bit of a gap there between the 2 of them. So I'm going to see if I can find a slot in between it that I could bring it out. So I'm thinking here would look good. So again, I'm going to go and do that 3 times. So 1, 2, and 3. And you can just kind of fiddle about and position these brown bits of thread however you please. Trying to cover up as much as you can, really. Okay, and the next bit that I go into, I think I'll go in here. And again, we're going to do it 3 times. So 1, you get the gist of what we're trying to do. 2, and 3. again, a bit of a gap, but what I think I'll do is I'll go one more over to the left, and then I will come back. So go in here. Again, we're going to go 3 times. So 1, 2, 3. Okay, so I just really need to try and fill that gap there. So I'm going to go back and see if I can get my needle through any of these holes. There we go. And again 3 times, and hopefully that should fill out that gap. Now it just depends where they land, but you can make sure they land in the space that you want them to. So I want this to be more over here. There we go. And then last one, like that. Okay, and now we have got a nose. So you can do a wee bit of fiddling, but I think that looks as good as I'm going to get it. Okay, and we're going to feed that through to come back out the bottom of the mouth, like that. And you want to get it roughly in the middle as best you can. And we're going to create a mouth. Like that, back through the middle. And out like that. Okay, so that's one side. It's looking a bit like a bear just now, but once we add everything, it begins to look more like a lion. Now there, and then we can feed that through the back. Like that. Okay, and that should be your nose and your mouth done. Okay, and again, like I said, just kind of fiddle about with the nose until you get it looking the way that you want. Okay, because we're working in a circle, the stitches are never going to be straight or in a straight line for you to go into, so you're going into a circle, so it does make it a wee bit harder. Okay, right, because I've got quite a lot of yarn left on this, I think I'm just going to go ahead and do the eyebrows with that. But first we're going to need some eyes. So I'll take my 16 millimeter eyes and take the wrapping off of them like that. And I'm going to put a little bit of shimmer behind this. Okay, so I am going to go for these blue ones, and we want to put them in between rounds 8 and 9. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 and 9. Okay, so I've decided I'm going to put them here, and I'd say there is about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 or 8 stitches in between our eyes there. Okay, and now that my eyes are on, I can add my eyebrows. You want to go above the eye, so I'm going to go in roughly about here. Don't need to be too exact, and I think I'll go in there. And then you can have a wee look, see what you think. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. Okay, and then over to the other side. So I think I'll go in here, and I think I will go in there. I'll see if I'm not too sure about that. We'll see. Just as long as they are matching. So this one looks a wee bit longer. Oh, now we've pulled it tighter, it doesn't. So let's see. Yep, I'm pretty happy with that. Okay. If you tie, so cut it off. And inside, if you just make sure you tie a knot. So I don't like to tie those two bits together. I actually like to tie it to a different bit. Like that. And then this one could get tied to this bit over here. Like that. So that's our eyebrows done. And what I also like to add is a wee bit of white just underneath my eyes. Okay. So for this one I am actually going to use white and not cream. So I think that'll be more than enough. So if you get your sewing needle, do it like that. Okay, so if you go underneath the eye, about there, pull it through, and maybe about there underneath the eye. Again, doesn't need to be exact, as long as they match. Okay, and pull it a wee bit tighter. So you can see how that just makes the eyes pop. So that is me there. Okay, so we're going to go back to crocheting, and in the next round we are starting with 30 stitches, and we're going to do 4 single crochet and then a decrease, an invisible decrease. So 1, 2, 3, 4, decrease, 1, 2, 3, 4, decrease. So if you do that all the way around, and at the end of this round we should have 30. So then we're going to do a 3 single crochet, so 1, 2, 3, and then a decrease, and we're going to do that all the way around again. So 1, 2, 3, decrease, 1, 2, 3, decrease. Okay, so continue that all the way around until we have 24 stitches left. All right, and this time we are going to be doing 2 single crochet, decrease, so 1, 2, decrease, 1, 2, decrease, 1, 2, decrease, and all the way around. Okay, and after this round I would begin to stuff the head. And then we're going to do single crochet, decrease until we have 12 stitches left. So single crochet, decrease, single crochet, decrease, decrease, single crochet, decrease, all the way around. Just before we do this final round, just make sure that you definitely have enough stuffing inside of your bear. Make sure it's all the way at the front, because this is going to finish this off in a second. And then for our final round, you're just going to do 6 decreases. So 1, 1, can be quite hard at this stage to see your stitches, but don't worry too much. 2, this is going to be hidden by the mane anyway. 3, 4, 5, and last one, get in it, 6. Okay, and then you're going to cut your yarn, leave a bit of a tail to sew in, and we're just going to sew it in to close the hole. So I tend to put my sewing needle just in between each of the stitches, in between the loops. 4, 5, and 6, and then a pull, and it should close the hole. So then you just want to hide your tail inside of the head as such. Okay, and that's you there. That is your head complete. So the last thing we need to do now is do our mane. Now for my main colour, I'm going to be using this brown here. But you can use whatever colour you have or want to use for your mane. So it's going to be similar to what we did with the tail, but we're going to be doing a lot more of it. Okay, so if you join somebody at the back and attach your yarn, okay, we are going to be working in continuous circles all the way around up until the ears. Okay, so you're going to pull down like that, and again, don't worry about them being all the same size, and then pull through like a slip stitch like that, and that's your first little bit of hair there. Now I'm not going to be very exact about this. I'm not going to be making sure that every single stitch is full because you'll never be able to tell. If I show you this example here, it's a different colour. Now there is some stitches here that have absolutely nothing in it, a whole kind of row here that doesn't have anything in it. Some of them are a wee bit more full, like down here. There we go, there's some more gaps. But once it's all together, you actually don't see any of it. So do not worry about making sure every single stitch is filled. Okay? So I'm just going to go, pull this down, just going to go in here. Oh, sorry, not in there. And pull it through with a slip stitch. And then here, pull it through, slip stitch. I'm just making sure that I'm following a circle. Alright, that's the main thing. We want to go in circles. And we want to reach back to that start point again. Like that. Okay, so I've done one kind of circle there. It's not exact by any means, but I've got some hair. Alright, so I'm going to continue round doing that again. And again, like I said, you do not need to be exact with it. I think I'll go in here. Just don't want the gaps to be too big. So that's a wee bit too much probably. I'll probably go there. So you can see I'm not being exact at all with it. Not at all. Just trying to make sure it's mostly covered. Okay, so I'm nearly back at the beginning of my circle. Getting there. And just keep going all the way. Okay, so I'm going to keep going until I reach the back of these ears. Alright, because that's when we're going to fasten off and we're going to work from the front. So see you then. Okay, so that's me done just up to the ears there, but you can see that we had this line, right? We don't want to see that line on the line. So what we're going to have to do is, I've went down to the bottom to cut it off. Okay, we'll deal with that after. And we're going to attach to the front now. I'm going to attach around about here. We want to make sure that there's enough of a gap in between here that it can still be sewn onto the lion. It's a body. Okay, so attach the yarn in the same way. Okay, And we're going to work in continuous rounds again. So that's the first one, second one, okay, and just keep working your way around. Now we don't want it to be too close to the eyes, so just watch that you aren't going in the way when you're doing your lip stitches. And on this first round we want to go in front of the ears. Okay, so just make sure when you're doing this you're on track for hitting those ears, okay, which looks like I am. So keep going. We're only going to do one round in front of the ears because we don't want them to be hidden too much. So keep going all the way around, and I'll meet you back once we get a full circle. Okay, so that's me got my first round of the main. So what we're going to do is continue that round, okay? Again, just make sure you leave enough space. So what I would probably do is work up along this, and then as you get to about here, start to fill up this space. And then we're going behind the ears, like that, and then down again, okay? So, like I said, I would probably just try and hit the same spot, because you'll not be able to tell anyway as long as it's nice and thick. Roughly the same spot, doesn't have to be exact. Like I said, the lovely thing about lion's manes is that they're nice and messy, okay? So as we get to about here, I'd probably start filling up that space. Okay, so that is me reached all the way back here. So I'm just gonna pull that through. And you just want to make sure that when you're looking here, so you can obviously see that some of this is not covered, right? But this part is going to be sewn on, and actually we're going to brush all these back and you won't be able to see that there is a big gap there. All right, same with the other side. So just make sure that yours is filled enough so that you won't see that, okay? So I'm just going to go around, and any loose bits I'm just going to sew in just now. Okay, and again, you can be messy with this because through all that you're not going to see it. Now, just before we go on to put this on the body, there's one other thing that I like to do to the face. So if you grab some brown yarn, you don't need too much if you've got any loose bits lying around, and we're just going to try and shape the face slightly. So what you need to do for this is, you need to do this before you sew it on. Underneath the eye, if you just go through a few stitches like that, and then through to the other side, just a few stitches. Like that, and then come out the bottom. So I'll show you what I've done there. So I've got a wee couple of stitches there, a couple of stitches there. Take this other end and feed that through the same bit at the bottom. Okay, there. And what you're going to do is you're going to pull really tight, okay? Really tight, and make a knot. And then if you look at your face, you'll see that it's kind of pulled in the way. And I just think that looks so much better. So you can fiddle about with that and just make sure it looks the way that you want. Okay. So my tip for sewing on the head of the body is going to be using knit needles. Alright. So if you sit your head on the body, whatever position you feel is right, and pop this through and pop it through the body. Should come out There we go, just come out the other end, and on the other side like that. Okay. Okay, so I've got my knitting needles in place and I'm going to use them just to keep it the way that I want. Okay, because it can be really hard to sew on in the position that you like. So I'm going to use this same brown yarn that I was using earlier just to sew the head on. Alright, so you'll need a sewing needle again. And this doesn't need to be exact either, because if you look at how big of a mane there is, a lot of the neck is going to be hidden anyway. Turn it like this. Okay, and I'm just trying to find a space that I can get my sewing needle in. So there we go, there's a space to get it started. And then you find a bit in the body and sew it in. Okay, and then again we're going to go through the head. Now this is not exact, do not like sewing, so that's why this is quite a low sew pattern. You can see how it pulls in, and then through the body again, like that. And you're just going to do that all the way around until you feel like your head is nice and secure. Okay, so I'll see you back once you've done that. So hopefully you have managed to create your own line by the end of this video. And on my written pattern you will see the instructions for all 3 of these, which is available on my Etsy, which I will link below. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more crochet tutorials. Thank you!